Brooklyn should hear it. The Bronx should hear it. Queens should hear it. Say it as if the Ummah depends on this, my brothers and sisters. La ilaha illallah! La ilaha illallah!
How many more New Yorkers we have told? Do you believe in the First Amendment? Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan? How many more?
They believed America would fold. They were profoundly wrong. The United States government has just introduced the Assimilation Act, a bold, sweeping, and courageous piece of legislation that strikes at the very heart of chain migration. It will reduce the annual influx from over 700,000 people to approximately 50,000. This is no modest reform. It is a direct and deliberate assault on the foundations of the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, the law that opened the floodgates of unlimited family sponsorship and irrevocably altered the character of American immigration for generations. In New York, the Muslim mayor continues to wage a fierce battle against federal deportation efforts. Yet even as nearly 1 million Muslims call that city home, the pressure emanating from Washington is only beginning to intensify. What the federal government is preparing to do next transcends mere numbers and statistics. It is the systematic dismantling of the legal pathways that millions have long relied upon. For those already within our borders, the changes to come will be firm, unwavering, and uncompromising.
Now, one House Republican is proposing a significant overhaul of legal immigration, the most significant in decades. He is Congressman Andy Ogles, and he is leading a new bill that would reverse key portions of the Hart-Celler Act. That's the 1965 Immigration Act. It would shift it away from these family sponsorships, family reunification, and back toward answering the essential question. When you come to America, not only do you want to be an American, but do you love America? Now joining me is Congressman from Tennessee, Republican Andy Ogles. Congressman, it's great to have you on the program. I've seen a lot of what you've been talking about, familiar with your proposed bill. I think it's entitled the Assimilation Act. Tell me why this has been so important to you. This is a cause that you almost single-handedly have been fighting. Why?
Well, I mean, just look at our communities. And one of the things in particular, I mean, obviously we see it here at home, but we can look to Europe to see what's coming down the pike, what's on the horizon. So you can look at London, you can look at Paris, you can look at Rome, where in Rome, roughly 70 to 80% of sex crimes are illegals. Again, when you look at Paris and you look at London, the same types of 50 to 60% of sex crimes are illegals or these migrants. And so now we've got to get serious.
Islamic leaders, not marginal or fringe voices, but respected imams and official community spokespeople have appeared on camera right here in the United States and declared without hesitation that Sharia law will one day replace American law. They do not say maybe or possibly. They say inevitably. They call it a divine promise from God. Patience, they insist, is all that is required. Quietly but steadily, they have been building the necessary infrastructure, mosques, Islamic schools, political organizations, and vast nonprofit networks. While this has been happening, the American people have begun to wake up. A congressman from Tennessee has stepped forward with legislation that would effectively end chain migration as we know it, and finally force the critical question that immigration policy has deliberately avoided for 60 years. Do you actually love this country? Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton recently stopped a dangerous plan to create an entire city of 20,000 foreign nationals on Texas soil designed to operate under Sharia governance. From coast to coast, American taxpayers, veterans, and parents are standing up and saying with one voice, enough is enough. This battle matters to every single American because once a foreign political ideology gains control over your streets, your elections, and your courts, your God-given freedoms will inevitably disappear. The resistance is now rising from every corner in the halls of Congress, in state courts, and in the hearts and voices of ordinary citizens on the streets. A Republican congressman from Tennessee has introduced what may become the most significant immigration reform in a generation. It is called the Assimilation Act. This bill demands that America's immigration system finally ask the question it should have been asking since 1965. Are you here to join and strengthen this nation or to transform it into something unrecognizable?
Because like you said, we've had these terrorist attacks. You had the shooting in Virginia, the shooting in Texas, you had the attempted bombing in New York, you had the car ramming in Michigan. And all of these individuals hate America. They don't like who we are, what we believe in. They don't love this country. And quite frankly, this idea that you can come here, this chain migration, because look, annually under chain migration, this family migration, it's roughly 700,000 people. My bill will take that down to 50,000 people. So you actually have to have a reason to be here, and you actually have to be the immediate family, not some distant cousin, uncle, whatever. And so this is a pragmatic approach. And so before 1965, before Hart-Celler, we had a reasonable immigration program. After 1965, you've seen it be passed. Then you have this floodgate of illegals.
700,000 people every year arriving through chain migration, many of whom have never visited America before and harbor little intention of truly assimilating. Congressman Ogles wants to reduce that to 50,000. That is not harshness. That is a sovereign nation wisely defending its culture, its security, and its future. Europe today serves as a stark preview, not a distant hypothetical. London, Paris, and Rome, once the glittering capitals of Western civilization, are now witnessing their violent crime rates heavily influenced by recent migrants who feel no loyalty to the societies that built those historic cities. Yet numbers alone do not tell the full story. The deeper issue is one of intent and belief. The Hart-Celler Act of 1965 moved America's immigration policy away from merit, skills, and cultural compatibility toward an open-ended system of family reunification. The result has been the growth of communities that often remain disconnected from American history, American principles, and the American rule of law. Some of these communities speak openly about their ultimate goals. When they do, wise nations listen. Texas has emerged as a primary target in this long-term strategy. The state now counts more than 330 mosques, hundreds of Islamic nonprofits, and reports show over $4 billion in taxpayer funds directed toward Islamic organizations since 2017. Texas came perilously close to allowing something that has no place on American soil. We have the authority and the power. As Muslims, we are obliged to take authority away from those who currently hold it and implement Sharia law. I hope this can happen peacefully without bloodshed. Man-made law is oppression. Do you believe America, Britain, and Europe will eventually become Islamic states under Sharia? Inevitably, this is the promise of God. I am not just confident, I am 100% convinced that Sharia will be implemented in America. Ken Paxton stopped that project. It was a clear and documented victory for the rule of law. Those behind the plan expected silence and compliance, the same institutional weakness they had seen in Europe. They were wrong. To understand the stakes, we must listen carefully to what these leaders say in their own words, not through the softening filter of mainstream media. An imam speaking inside an American mosque openly explained the religious duty. When Muslims gain sufficient power and authority, they are obligated to replace existing governance with Sharia. America finds itself deep within a 1,400-year historical pattern of Islamic expansion through migration, settlement, and gradual conquest, patient, methodical, and unrelenting. The Muslim Brotherhood's 1991 memorandum, introduced as evidence in federal court, described this as a civilization jihad aimed at destroying the West from within. That strategy has been actively at work in Texas for more than 35 years. The imam spoke with calm conviction. If we have the power, we must remove oppression and establish Sharia. He expressed absolute certainty that America would one day live under Islamic law. These were not the words of a hidden extremist, but a public statement made on record inside a mosque on American soil. When someone announces their intentions so clearly, it is not paranoia to take them at their word. We must accept an uncomfortable truth. Not all cultures are equal, and not all are equally compatible with the American constitutional order. Radical Islam, as a political ideology, rejects core Western principles of free speech, religious freedom, and separation of mosque and state. It is expansionist by nature. The evidence is visible across Europe and increasingly here at home. It is time for silence to end. I have watched portions of our beloved nation invaded by ungrateful, hypocritical, and dangerous religious zealots committed to the ideology of Islam. I know some will react with anger and call me names: bigot, Islamophobe, extremist. I am not speaking to them. I am speaking to the quiet patriots who have remained silent for too long, while this ideology has slowly tightened its hold on our schools, our government, our places of worship, our media, and our greatest cities. From the tragedy of 9/11 to the growing radicalism and electoral issues we have witnessed in Minnesota and elsewhere that the political left refuses to confront. We were told repeatedly that Islam is the religion of peace. Those who have looked honestly at history and current events know it has too often become the religion of peace's lives and bodies destroyed by violence in the name of faith. The time has come for Americans to recognize that we are being invaded not just by people, but by an ideology through deception and conquered through our own misplaced tolerance and complicity. Sweden has reached approximately 10% Muslim, Oslo in Norway as well. Vienna, the city the Ottoman Empire besieged for 200 years without success, is now 10% Muslim. In parts of London and certain suburbs of Sydney, the concentration is even higher. These numbers were presented not as a crisis, but as proof that the long-term demographic strategy is working. This is the openly stated playbook: grow the population quietly, use democratic institutions, apply incremental pressure, and wait for the tipping point. While freedom of speech remains one of our greatest weapons, sometimes the most powerful acts of resistance come from ordinary individuals willing to speak truth with evidence. A Muslim woman publicly challenged the world, saying she would leave Islam if anyone could point out even one contradiction in the Quran. An American accepted the challenge and presented 5 clear contradictions, citing exact chapters and verses from the historical impossibility of Moses speaking to a Samaritan, to conflicting teachings on forgiveness of idolatry, the days of creation, the sight of the blind on Judgment Day, and the possibility of justice in polygamy. She deleted the video without any rebuttal or response. That silence speaks volumes. In a free country, one can simply walk away from a weak argument. Under Sharia, even asking such questions is forbidden. That fundamental difference, the right to question, to challenge, to debate, and to choose freely, is what we are fighting to preserve. America will not surrender these rights, not while courageous congressmen fight to restore sanity to our immigration system. Not while determined attorneys general block Sharia enclaves before they can take root. Not while everyday Americans stand up in their communities, their legislatures, and online to declare, this country belongs to the people who love it. Valuable lesson for all of us. The greatest lesson we must draw from this moment in history is this: a nation that forgets to love itself cannot survive. Immigration is not merely about economics or humanitarian gestures. It is about preserving a unique civilization built on individual liberty, equality under the law, and loyalty to the founding principles. When we allow large numbers of people who do not share or actively reject those principles to enter without any expectation of genuine assimilation, we are not being compassionate. We are committing cultural suicide. History teaches us repeatedly that civilizations fall not only from external military conquest, but from internal demographic and ideological transformation. Europe is showing us the early stages of that painful process today. America still has time to choose a different path. The Assimilation Act is more than legislation. It is a declaration that America will remain American. It reminds us that love of country is not hatred of others. It is the necessary foundation for any successful, cohesive society. True patriotism is not blind nationalism. It is the courage to defend what is good, what is true, and what has made this nation the greatest experiment in human freedom the world has ever known. If we learn this lesson now, that assimilation is not optional, that cultural compatibility matters, and that a nation must prioritize those who genuinely love it, then America will not only endure, but continue to shine as a beacon of hope for generations to come. The people who believed this nation would quietly surrender were wrong. They have always been wrong about Americans. And as long as we remember the true lesson of what makes this country exceptional, they will keep being wrong.